Well, it looks like Mr. Dak Prescott had a good time yesterday. I'm not going to suck off the Dallas Cowboys after one good game again, but damn, they looked good yesterday. And Mr. Daniel Jones looks like he's hitting that rookie slide. Couldn't get one past the Cardinals, could you? And let's talk about this. Ryan Tannehill saves the day, and the Titans' offense looks the best it has all year against the Chargers. The Atlanta Falcons just suck. And let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, how about them Chicago Bears, huh? Yeah, looks like those draft picks are working out good, aren't they? What else we got? Let's take a list down here, huh? Patrick Mahomes is going down, and based on how Kansas City's been playing, despite it being against the Broncos, they could be in trouble. And can the New York Jets conquer all and beat New England tonight? This is your NFL Week 7 review. Don't go anywhere. Well, this is your NFL Week 7 review, and there are a lot of different things to go over here, especially with these games that are going on and happened over the week. There were a lot of beatdowns, a lot of boring games, but generally this week in general was a high-scoring game, or a high-scoring Sunday of football for the most part, even Thursday to an extent, which that'll probably be the last game I review, because I actually did forget about that, because I totally kick the Thursday night games to the side sometimes, and I really shouldn't do that. And Kyler Murray wasn't really so active in this game. I wouldn't say that he had any type of breakout game. He wasn't doing anything fantastic, but they definitely looked a lot better. Daniel Jones struggled, and he's starting to hit that rookie slide, and I think that after those two games, I know he got hit with the Minnesota, New England Cardinals. Minnesota, New England back-to-back is a tough 2 weeks for anybody, but the Cardinals is a game where I think that this could have really been the Giants' bounce-back game, and they didn't really do that. Like I said, Kyler Murray didn't do much, but he really didn't need to. Chase Edmonds was running the ball for the Cardinals, and he did fantastic. He had 125 yards plus 3 touchdowns. Jones struggled. He's hitting that rookie wall. This was Saquon Barkley's first game back for the New York Giants. He did all right. He got 72 yards. Golden Tate has quietly been a decent receiver for the New York Giants. He caught for 80 yards. The Giants were in the game throughout most of the game, despite the Cardinals getting off to a fast start, but they were not able to win it. They were not in it to win it, as I said in my review. The Cardinals do beat the Giants 27-21 in MetLife Stadium, and the Giants are going to have their hands full. I don't know exactly who they play next week. Oh, they play Detroit, I think. But then the week after that, they play New England not New England, I'm sorry, Dallas. And if Dallas gets back on that train of successful wins that they've had, I'm going to expect the Giants to lose that game. But the Giants do have a tough one next week against Detroit, because Detroit did lose, but they've shown that they've been a promising team for the most part this year, and they're much better than a 3-3 team. Next game was the most boring game of the week, and for anybody that watched it, I'm sorry. The weather was atrocious in this game. There was mud and just rain and just all that everywhere. It was the Redskins hosting the undefeated 49ers, and as much as I'd love to have notes for this game, I don't. It was a sloppy game. It was just a 9-0 shutout from the San Francisco 49ers, who somehow, someway remained undefeated against the Washington Redskins. Very boring game. 3 field goals for Robbie Good for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's all. It was a solid day, I guess you could say, for Adrian Peterson, who's had 2 games in a row of decent running. 82 yards. The Redskins looked irrelevant, and they have been irrelevant. This team has 1 win on the year, and they may finish with 3 wins absolutely tops. There are going to be quite a few teams that have atrocious records, I believe, at the end of the season. Washington being one, Miami being the other. And I think that I think Atlanta's gonna rebound a little bit, and they're gonna get a couple more wins. But I think that Cincinnati will be in that mix as well, and it's a damn shame, because we'll get to that in a minute. But it was a game where I was actually at my cousin's wedding the night before, speaking with my cousin's fiance, who was a big Colts fan, and he said he was going to win this game, and I said there was no way. I was wrong. It's surprising. Jacoby Brissett had a breakout game. He had 326 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Pascal was the top receiver for Indianapolis. 106 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. But on the other side, DeAndre also shined. He had 9 receptions, 106 yards. A late interception by Darius Leonard shuts it down for the Colts. It was a quiet run day on both sides, not too much coming from Marlon Mack or Hyde as well. The Colts hosted the Texans in this game, and they were able to edge out this win 30-23. And Colts are looking good, but I still think the Texans are in the mix, and especially with Tannehill coming on with the Titans. I mean, I know if you haven't watched the team, you don't really know, but I think that we're also coming as well. But the Colts did get the win. It definitely surprised me, and Watson wasn't shining his magic for the most part so far in this game. Game was one of the best games, and you're definitely going to want to hear this, one of the best games in Aaron Rodgers' career. He was just unbelievable in this game. The Packers stomped all over the Raiders. Rodgers had 400-plus yards with 5 touchdowns. Marquise Scantling was the top receiver. He had 2 receptions, 133 yards. However, the Raiders did put up numbers of their own. Josh Jacobs had 124 yards. Waller as well continued the ball with 126 yards and 2 touchdowns despite getting blown out. The Raiders had their numbers. Now, I just want to make this evidently clear to everybody. When Aaron Rodgers is on his game and the Packers are supporting him around, they're one of the most unstoppable teams in the NFL. I was quick to say that the Packers were a fluke start this year, but after 7 games, Aaron Rodgers looks damn good, and the Packers look damn good. I was completely wrong about this team. If Rodgers is playing like this in the NFC, I still have New Orleans as a favorite, but if Rodgers is playing like this, it's very hard to root against him. And I'm going to be one of those people that say that if Rodgers had the team that Drew Brees had, they would go 15-1. Because I just think that Aaron Rodgers, when he's in his zone, he is better than any quarterback in the NFL. I think he's better than Drew Brees. And I think that he is, God forbid I say Tom Brady. But Aaron Rodgers is just truly unstoppable, and the Packers have looked unbelievable this year. They are 6-1, and this team is coming, and they are here. So you better watch out for the Green Bay Packers. It is a long time coming, and I think that the NFC will go through Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees with Russell Wilson on the outskirts, and I don't see the 49ers there. I'm sorry. I know they're 6-0, but they are not. I don't think they're ready for those teams. The next game was another great game for Kirk Cousins. It was the Vikings traveling to Ford Field to take on the Lions. And despite the Lions putting up a lot of numbers, the Minnesota Vikings dropped another 40 bomb this week, 42-20. Actually, they scored 38 against the Eagles last week. I'm sorry. The Vikings scored 42, and they were able to shut down the Lions. Kirk Cousins lit lights up again, 337 yards, 4 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook continues his run dominance, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. So fantastic again. 7 receptions, 142 yards. However, Stafford was good as well. 364 yards, 4 touchdowns. So not an awful start for him as well. But the Vikings have just been on fire lately, and they've been good all year, but they've really kicked it up on offense, and Kirk Cousins is starting to really break out. Cook has been good all year. I know Cook's good. You know Cook's good. He's just unbelievable. But it's just, that's another thing. The Vikings are good, but I don't know if Kirk Cousins is that type of guy that's going to lead you into a deep playoff run. I think physically the team is designed for that, but I don't think Kirk Cousins is built for stuff like that. Because when I think about a team like Minnesota, I don't think about a matchup with Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, because that's not even a fair comparison, and Kirk Cousins and Drew Brees is not a fair comparison either. So I don't know if Stephon Diggs is regretting wanting to be traded or if he wants to stay here, but since his trade, he's actually played better, and the team has played better. Or not since his trade, but since his trade request, the team has actually played better. The next game was not, I wouldn't say it was an exciting game, but if you're a fan of either team, it was, unless you're a Bengals fan. The Jaguars went to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Now, Dalton looks awful, and this team has looked awful. He has as many touchdowns. This was something I looked up. Andy Dalton has as many touchdowns as interceptions this year, 8-8. Fournette ran well for Jacksonville, 131 yards. The Jaguars defense holds this game down in the end. D.D. Westbrook, also a top receiver for Jacksonville, 6 receptions, 103 yards. The Bengals didn't do much of really anything. Andy Dalton looked absolutely atrocious. I forgot to write his numbers down. The Jaguars beat the Bengals 27-17, and the Bengals are winless. And we are closing on the end of almost October. And by the time it's turkey time, the Bengals may still be winless. And this is really one of those teams that I continue to root for. I actually remember when I was younger, I used to be a big fan of the color orange. I still am. Orange and black. I just think the combo is so awesome, especially with Halloween and all those type of things. And I used to low-key support the Cincinnati Bengals, but to see what this team has turned into after, a couple years ago they started off 5-0. It's just really hard to watch. They're 0-7. I think decisions are going to be made soon. I know that they like Andy Dalton, but I think decisions are going to have to be made soon. And I definitely think it's time to, I don't want to say move on, but they got to do the same thing they did, the Titans did with Mariota. It's time for the bench. It's time for the bench because he just, regardless of what happens, this team is 0-7, and it's just, I mean, there's nothing else for them to do. They're 0-7. Now, the next game was the Miami Dolphins looking better, but not good. The Dolphins looking better is always a good thing, but I don't know if I can ever say they look good. But this was a game where Fitzpatrick was the starter for this game, and he played well. He played decent. I don't think he did awful. He had 282 yards. John Brown was the top receiver for Buffalo, 5 receptions, 83 yards. He was the only semi-out breaker, but Preston Williams on the Miami side of things also had 6 receptions, 82 yards. Tre'Davious White was a big playmaker for Buffalo on that defense. He forced 2 turnovers in this game. The Dolphins remain winless, and the Bills, and if you want to say it was a good game, I guess you could. The Bills edge out the Dolphins 31-21 in Buffalo. The Bills are 5-1 on the year, and it's hard to say, but they're contending for the AFC East title. Never thought I'd say that, but I think as long as Tom Brady breathes there, the New England is always going to win that division. But the Bills are here, and the thing I think is so interesting about the NFL this year, there are so many teams that are doing better than we thought, and so many teams that are doing worse. This is actually one of the more interesting NFL seasons, I personally believe, because I think there's so many teams where in the beginning of the year I thought in the AFC that there was 2 teams. It was Kansas City and New England, and the NFC was loaded with New Orleans, Dallas on a much smaller scale, Seattle, and now Green Bay. But I guess like I said, we'll see where the chips fall. But the Bills are in there, and that defense is strong enough to carry this team to at least one playoff win, I think. If they get that wild card, which I definitely see the Bills making the playoffs at this rate. Still a lot of season left, but I definitely see them making the playoffs. If you ask me, so that is that game. Next game is probably the team that has been the biggest disappointment this year. And like I said, I always remind people that when I say disappointment, I am not at all talking about a team that sucks. I'm talking about a team that you expected to be better, and they're awful. The Atlanta Falcons looked atrocious in this game. And that's another situation. Matt Ryan is far above a mediocre quarterback, but I don't know. I don't think the Falcons are ever going to bench Matt Ryan. And personally, I don't think you would. But again, this team is 1-6. The Falcons looked awful. They were in Atlanta hosting the LA Rams. Jalen Ramsey's debut. This was the worst game for Matt Ryan in a while. But however, Julio Jones, I guess you would say 100 yards plus is definitely winning your matchup against the corner. But Julio Jones was well against Ramsey. He actually had 6 receptions for 93 yards, so I'd say he'd win the battle. No running to speak of on either side of the game. Devontae Freeman looked like shit. He was ejected for punching Aaron Donald, and this guy Devontae Freeman is, he has a lot of guts. Punching somebody like Aaron Donald who could throw him into the third deck. Also, a notable name on the Rams, Robert Woods had 5 receptions for 80 yards. Falcons are 1-6 on the year, and another thing, this is a team that you expected to be a lot better than this. I didn't expect them at all be, a good team or anything, but they have all these offensive names and all these names, and I know their defense is pretty bad, but it's really ridiculous at this point. A lot of people are pointing at Dan Quinn. I don't know who or what you would point at, but just in terms in general, the Falcons really got to get it going. This was a good game for the LA Rams to break back into things. The next game, and now I say this one with a smile because I am smiling on this Monday afternoon because Mr. Ryan Tannehill got his first start for us Titans, and he did exactly what I thought he would. He looked good. He wasn't putting up 400 yards a game, but Tannehill did great, honestly. He gave this offense a spark that I think that this team needed desperately coming into this game. Threw for over 300 yards. Henry didn't look too great in the beginning, but when it was all said and done, he had 90 yards and a touchdown. Corey Davis was our top receiver, and that's nice to say that because we haven't had a top receiver in weeks. He had 6 receptions for 80 yards. On the other side, though, Austin Eckler is a problem for a lot of teams, and he was a little bit of a problem for us. He had 7 receptions for 118 yards, and he's so small, but he's so lethal. The end of this game was literally in the final seconds. the Chargers were at the goal line, and I was praying to myself. I'm like, please, do not do this. The Yankees got booted out of the playoffs the night before. I do not need this. Please do not have the Chargers score. The original first play was Melvin Gordon getting tackled, and it looked like a touchdown, but they said that he was down at the 1. So give him credit for that, right? They run the play back again, and it looked like he had gotten to the same spot, but if you run it over, Melvin Gordon fumbled the football, and it bounced once or twice, and it ended up in Jarrell Casey's hands. This was a very long review for this, and I was praying, and it came back, and it said, ruling is a fumble, Titans recover, end of game, and I'm, thank God. The Titans nail-biter goal line stand, and this team is in the win column, back at it again. We're 3-4, and we're going against Tampa Bay next week, and that is the perfect game for us coming off of this. Titans defense looked a little bit sketchy in the beginning of this game, but for the most part, they did pretty good. They shut down Melvin Gordon, and Mr. Keenan Allen was shut down as well. So if you'd like to try our secondary, you could put whoever you want against it. We've shut down Julio Jones. We've shut down Odell Beckham. We've shut down Buffalo receivers. We have shut down Keenan Allen. We've shut down Denver receivers. Who else? Jacksonville was really the only time DJ Chark was the only receiver that really broke free against us. But this is big for us, and I think that you have to go with Tannehill moving forward to continue to do so. And I'm looking forward to see what he can do against Tampa Bay, and maybe hitting that 500 mark. But I was very satisfied with what I seen from them. Now the next game, I don't want to prematurely put Lamar Jackson in the Michael Vick conversation, but he's been the Ravens' top rusher almost every week. Lamar Jackson's speed and versatility alone gave the Ravens the win over the Seahawks, who finally seemed to cool down after Russell Wilson was on his red-hot MVP status the last couple weeks. He's unbelievable, Lamar Jackson, and I don't mean that from a quarterback standpoint. I mean that from an athletic standpoint. He rushed for 116 yards, and yes, that's a quarterback, and he threw for 143 as well, which wasn't really necessarily impressive. But Lamar Jackson single-handedly alone won this game 30-16 in Seattle against the Seahawks. And Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to be a hard guy to catch. He's so fast, and he's just such a good rushing quarterback, and he reminds me of a modern-day Michael Vick in a sense. But we're going to continue to get to see what we see from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, who definitely shut down the Seahawks. Tyler Lockett wasn't much of a factor. Chris Carson, who's been running well for Seattle all year, didn't really do much. But that is basically where we are with that. And yeah, so we're going to see what we see from that. A couple more games to review. The New Orleans Saints headed to Chicago, and they must have been chewing on that popcorn beforehand, because the Chicago Bears were kicking them out, but not on the field. No Breeze, no problem. Backup Latavius Murray. Alvin Kamara didn't play this game with injury. Backup Latavius Murray for New Orleans Saints did fantastic at 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas continues to show why Mr. Nick Acasio, I don't know if you're watching this, probably not this deep into the video, but Michael Thomas is better than Odell Beckham Jr. He may not be as athletic as Odell Beckham Jr. and as talented in terms of catchability, but Michael Thomas has caught more footballs, and he's had more yards than Odell Beckham this whole season, all of last season, and I want to say maybe even the season before that. Michael Thomas is better than Odell Beckham, and I just want to get that out of the way for those people that tend to say that Odell's still a top 3 receiver in the league, because I know Baker Mayfield isn't all cookies and rainbows, but Michael Thomas is a top 3 receiver in football. Just want to put that out there. A notable name for Chicago is Allen Robinson, who had 10 receptions, 87 yards. The Saints have not lost under Teddy Bridgewater. I was expecting this team to go maybe 500 under Teddy Bridgewater. They are 5-0 under Teddy Bridgewater, and the Saints are the most well-built team all around in the NFL from a running back standpoint, receiver standpoint. Defense could get better, but it's played well. The Saints are not going to be beat, and the Saints are probably going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just being honest. They're the most well-rounded team. They are a better version, dare I say, of the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, the Saints went into Soldier Field, and they ripped through 36-25 final game. I'm going to review the Thursday game first, actually, because this one's going to be fun to talk about. Not this game so much, but just the last game in general. The Chiefs went to Denver, and they had a happy plane ride back. not fully. Mahomes got hurt in this game. Said his injury is going to be a few weeks. The team smokes the Broncos. Cortland Sutton was a good receiver for Denver. 6 receptions, 87 yards. Ty Hill only had 74 yards, but that's on 3 receptions, folks. The team the Kansas City Chiefs may be in trouble without Mahomes for a few weeks because he is such a huge part and a huge role in this team. Even though the team's good around him, I think Kansas City could be in for a few losses the next coming weeks. I know we play them in, I think, 3 weeks, but I think that could possibly be the game Mahomes comes back, and that's what makes me nervous. The final game of the week, and the final game of the day, the Eagles went to Dallas, and they may never want to come back after this game. The Cowboys' bounce-back game was huge. They ripped right through the Eagles. Elliott ran fantastic, 111 yards. Amari Cooper has been an astonishing wide receiver all year, and his dominance continued. 5 receptions, 106 yards. Better game for Dak Prescott. Wentz looked pretty bad. He had 3 turnovers in this game. And I hate to say this, but the Eagles are overrated. Wentz is not being as dominant as he could be. I don't think he's playing bad. I don't think he's playing great either. He's just okay. He's just there. But that's just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. So the Cowboys ripped right through them. They're off next week, and then I think the week after that they head to MetLife Stadium and take on the Giants. So it could be a good couple weeks for the Dallas Cowboys. Great bounce-back game for them. We will see what they do against that. Your final game of the week is actually tonight, and it is actually a more exciting game. A more exciting game, and the only reason that is because the Jets have Sam Darnold, and if Sam Darnold comes out as good or better than he did last week, the Jets actually stand a legitimate chance. Oh, yes, I said it. Against the New England Patriots. C.J. Mosley's back in this game. It's a Monday night game. The New York Jets are hosting the New England Patriots. And have Sam Darnold not be starting this game, I think the Patriots would run all over them. But Sam Darnold is starting this game. Still have New England winning, but you're going to have to see what you get. You're going to have to see what you get. That's where we are. So I'm rooting for the Jets, and we'll see what we get from them. But if the Jets win this game, people are going to start talking about Sam Darnold's magic. Anyways, this is your NFL Week 7 review, and if you're still watching, thank you for watching, because you wouldn't want it any other way. I am really out of breath sometimes after I do these videos. I underestimate how hard it is sometimes to talk so fast about different stats and things, and if you're able to keep up, then that's great. But otherwise, that is that. Thank you for watching. After this, I'm going to have to be a little bit more creative because, A, there's no more previews and predictions, and baseball's over. I'll have some World Series, maybe a World Series preview I can get out there going. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and this has been great.